What's up, everybody? Welcome to Touchdown Texas, episode 13. I'm your host, Shivam Patel, and I have Nick Rodriguez here as my co-host, coming off a Horns win against the Kentucky Wildcats, 31 to 14. The Horns win the last game on Senior Day and take care of the Kentucky Wildcats. But Nick, how you feeling, man?
Man, I feel good. That was a nice win against Kentucky, but man, as we're gonna get into it, it was a crazy day yesterday, especially in the SEC. So we're gonna break it all down for you. But awesome that we got a win and we didn't have to stress too much about it.
No, for sure. And yeah, we're going to talk about the game, and then we're going to talk about some of the SEC title game scenarios because a lot can happen. And Nick has had some thoughts about Texas's schedule and the experts claiming that we played a weak schedule. So stay tuned for that. I'll cue Nick
Yeah,
up a little bit later in the show. But first, I just wanted to say, everybody follow us at touchdown_Texas on our social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And we're every game we react usually the next day, reacting to the games and giving our thoughts and analysis. But okay, let's start with the Texas win against the Kentucky Wildcats. Let's start with the offense. What are your overall big picture takeaways from the offense yesterday?
well, I mean, another week in a row where we got off to a good start. Now, the difference with this week in Arkansas is right after that first touchdown, we slowed down and we can get anything going after that. This week was a little bit better, I thought. I mean, I thought we were still getting things going. Had a nice lead in the first half. Quinn looked comfortable, banged up, as we'll get into a little bit later. But I think overall, I feel really good about where the offense performs. Kentucky is a really good team. They have a great defensive line. They were trying to make things difficult. They sniffed some things out. But that first drive, I mean, Sark is always going to have something dialed up on that first drive. And we went down, we scored, and I thought the offense overall was pretty productive.
It definitely was. The offense was moving the ball down the field. Quinn was actually like stepping into throws and looked very
Yeah.
comfortable in the pocket. Matthew Golden got things started. He had like 4 catches just in the first quarter, and he was on fire. Quinn was looking for him because Isaiah Bond was kind of iffy with that ankle, so he didn't
Yeah.
get as many targets. But the biggest encouraging thing for me was the run game. How about that? 250 total yards, 158 yards for Wisner, 96 yards for Jaden Blue. We're going to talk about Jaden Blue's fumbles in a little bit, but let's just stay with the positives first. And the offense was clicking on all cylinders. The offensive line was protecting against Kentucky's vaunted defensive line. They were giving Quinn time to throw. They were opening up running lanes. Quinn was in sync with the wide receivers. What about Gunnar Helm on Senior Day? 2 touchdown
Man.
catches and big catches at that. And so the offense played really well. They were clicking on all cylinders, and you can tell that they started to get the rhythm back. After the Florida game, and the last week against Arkansas was a little bumpy, but they were more inclined to have a faster start on offense, and I think they did it. They set the tempo early, and it was nice that they got a touchdown on the first drive, 7-0, because we usually stall out on the first couple of drives. So that was encouraging, but. Quinn, overall, just to talk about the quarterback, yeah, he looked comfortable. He looked decisive with his reads. He was throwing to the right wide receivers. He was accurate with his passes. So I think Quinn overall, before he even got hurt, had a great game, Nick.
I think so too. I mean, again, this is a team in Kentucky that's played a lot of great teams in the SEC very close. They beat
Mhm.
Ole Miss. They had a close one with Tennessee, and then Tennessee ended up pulling away. They had a close one with Georgia. So this is not a team, despite their record, it's not a team that is a joke. I mean, they're a very good football team. We were at home. The offense did look smooth. I mean, I think the big thing, you brought up the running game. How about the way we ended the game? I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah.
16, 17 rushes in a row and pushing with the offensive line. I mean, what a way to put your stamp and your foot on the game and close them out.
Definitely, and so the offense for the first 2 quarters was great. We had a what was it, 24-7 lead at halftime, but then we have to talk about the third quarter, which got a little hairy a little bit because it was like they put grease on the ball. There was a lot of
Yes.
fumbles. Like
Yes.
Quinn Ewers had a sack fumble that got Kentucky back into the game. It was 24-14. And then the next, or no, the possession before that, excuse me, Jaden Blue fumbled the ball, and Kentucky recovered it, but luckily our defense bowed up and they missed the field goal. And then the next possession, like I said, Quinn fumbled and Kentucky cut the lead to 24-14. Then even Jared Gibson fumbled, and Silas Bolden fumbled on a punt return. So like it was very like head scratching what happened in the third quarter. And the offense was stalling out. You could tell Quinn had an ankle injury because he was limping into halftime, and Sark could not open up his playbook because Quinn was basically a statue out there. So his plays become very predictable. Like we went to the short passing game, and Kentucky figured that out. And they not only got pressure on Quinn, but they were stopping the short passing game, and we ended up having a lot of 3-and-outs. So Nick's point about our running the ball in the fourth quarter to bleed 8 minutes of the clock was huge because that enabled us to win.
Am I frozen on your side?
No, you're good.
No, okay. So it's just me. All right, so I'll just keep going. No, you're completely correct. I mean, the like you said, there's something with that ball because there was 4 turnovers in a row, right? They actually ended up calling that one on Quinn an interception. Did you see that?
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was just a fumble. Okay.
That's what I thought. So that's a turnover. I mean, you have the Jaden Blue. I mean, some of them we recover, obviously. And then, I was texting with you yesterday, and I'm like, you know what? Sometimes I'm okay with us giving up a touchdown when we keep playing with fire because we need to be punished in some sort of way. You know what I mean? So obviously the game was not in a situation where it was getting out of hand, or becoming where we have to worry too much. But you can't turn the ball over like that and give your opponent extra possessions, and that's what we did. And fortunately, we were able to get back on it and close them out and win pretty comfortably. But we cannot do that next week against A&M.
Definitely. And just to hit on the Jaden Blue point, this year he has 7 fumbles total this year, and 3 of them he lost. So that was, and so they just completely just went to Trey Wisner because you don't have a healthy quarterback. So I even want to give even more props to the offensive line because Kentucky knew what was coming, and the offensive line. Kentucky's line is no joke. Deion Walker, number 0, he's going to be a first-round pick. That was a big boy out. That was a big boy out there. So, and they took care of him. And Wisner ended up kind of saving the day for us because he deserved that touchdown at the end. Without the 250 rushing yards, we probably still would have won the game, but it would have been much closer than it needed to be. So that was a little concerning. That could not happen against A&M. And now we need Quinn Ewers to get rehab, recover, and get as healthy as possible because that ankle injury. And it's just unfortunate for Quinn because it seems like every time he has a good game, he gets nicked up. Like it's just very unfortunate. But hopefully it's just something a little minor. And we can recover before A&M. But before we want to talk about the defense, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the Texas seniors. Last night was senior day, so Gunnar Helm, Vernon Brodden, Alfred Collins, Michael Taft, Andrew Makuba. They were all excellent seniors that really contributed, to the turnaround of this Texas team. Even Quinn got celebrated on senior day, and Sark told us about how they bought into the culture because they already coming up a coaching change. It's very difficult with that transition, but they bought into what Sark was saying. They bought into the culture. They stayed with the program, and they're a huge reason why Texas has had the success the last 2 years. So I wanted to give a shout out to the Texas seniors. 17 of them got celebrated yesterday. So shout out and props. And we got the win on senior day. That's all that matters. After what happened yesterday, the SEC, survive in advance is the name of the game.
I mean, that's all you can really do. I mean, we won by double digits again. I mean, I don't think we can really look at these opponents as weak necessarily anymore. And we got to, especially when other teams are falling. So we're now 10-1. We got a chance to make to the SEC championship game, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I mean, in the SEC, you can't really count anybody out.
Gotcha. Yep. No, for sure. So Nick, now before we talk about the defense, let's cue him up. So let me just give some context a little bit before Nick goes on his he says what he wants to say. So throughout this year, the experts on the media channels have been saying that Texas has had such a weak schedule. Yes, we've not played the top teams of the SEC, but we've got berated for years while we're in the Big 12 saying about how the bottom tier, the teams of the SEC, the middle tiers of the SEC are just as good as the top tier teams. So now that we're playing some of those teams and we're beating them soundly, like the only close game that we've had was Vanderbilt, and that's looking like a good win because they're Vanderbilt's bowl eligible. So they're saying that we played nobody on our schedule. They claim we've had no top 25 wins in the college football playoff, even though Oklahoma at the time was ranked, Michigan at the time was ranked. So
Yes.
the experts have been saying that. So I'm going to tee Nick off and let him talk about what he thinks about the Texas schedule. So go ahead, Nick.
I think the first thing that I'd like to say is that, yes, our strength of schedule is not the same as like a Georgia, who's played Alabama, they've played Texas, they've Florida, so they've had a tougher schedule. I'm not saying we have the toughest, but I think when you look at our strength of schedule and you look at who we've beaten and who other teams have lost to, I don't think it can be a question anymore, because we look at Arkansas. We beat Arkansas by double digits. Tennessee lost to them. We beat Kentucky by a lot.
17, yeah.
17, right?
Mm-hmm.
Georgia beat them by 1 point. Okay. We didn't play Ole Miss, but we played Florida. Florida just beat Ole Miss. So every time there's a team that they're like, oh, that's SEC or whatever. Vanderbilt, again, we beat Vanderbilt at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt beat Alabama. We killed Oklahoma. Oklahoma killed Alabama. So I don't think you can't really nitpick anymore. There's all these teams that beaten teams, but they've lost. Georgia lost to Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get a chance to play Ole Miss, but after their performance yesterday, I think we could handle Ole Miss. The only team, and I've been saying this for a few weeks now, the only team that really, really scares me, really in the SEC, is Georgia. I think any other team, I think we feel very comfortable with. We didn't play LSU. I think we would have mopped LSU this year. I mean, they really have fallen apart. So I just think if you're going to look at, wow, you have a weak schedule, you played Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Mississippi State, all these teams. Well, a lot of the elite teams in the SEC have lost to all those teams. Arkansas, Florida, Vanderbilt, which goes to show the strength of the SEC, but also maybe how weak those other teams are actually.
Definitely, and yeah, very well said. Because if you look at just to have Tennessee, for example, let's look at the common opponents. Tennessee lost to Arkansas, and Arkansas had their backup quarterback. Tennessee needed overtime at home to beat Kentucky.
To beat Florida.
To beat Florida too. And we beat Kentucky, and we probably would have beat Florida if we played them. So yeah, comparing these two teams, we've had really good wins and good performances against the teams that we've needed to, and we've taken care of business. And the Vanderbilt game, technically our closest game, if we didn't have that roughing the passer penalty, who was it on Vernon Broughton? We would have had a pick six going the other way. We would have beat Vanderbilt by 10 points, that another double-digit win. We just had penalties at the end. So you have to put it in context, and our strength of schedule is 38th in the country. It's not great, but it's not terrible compared to an Indiana strength of schedule, which is the 106th in the country. And you saw what happened yesterday against Ohio State. They had no chance. So things are working itself out a little bit more because Alabama lost and Ole Miss lost, but there were some very unfair arguments that people were holding a standard to Texas to that they weren't holding other teams to.
No, I think if you look at it though and say, okay, even last year we went to Tuscaloosa and we beat Alabama. Michigan, we know, lost a lot of players, to the draft or transfer or whatever, but they just won the national championship. They were ranked very high when we went into Ann Arbor, and we beat them, and that was a huge win. So I'll say this for Indiana too. Like, you can't – I don't always like when a team is ranked when you play them or preseason, and then they fall off and it becomes not a quality win. So, let's use Michigan as an example. They're a very good team. In 2023, they win the national championship. They go undefeated. They're like top 10 preseason, right? Really good team, and we crush them. They fall off. They have 6 or 7 wins to finish the season. I get it. It's not the same quality as win. Like if they were undefeated, I get that, but I don't think we should be penalized because they were still top 10. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. It's well said because like I said, we played Michigan when they were ranked, and we played Oklahoma. They were ranked, and
Right.
and Vanderbilt too. Actually, Vanderbilt was 25th.
Vanderbilt was ranked too, right?
Yes. So I know they lost to LSU last night, but they're bowl eligible. Who had Vanderbilt being bowl eligible coming into this year and beating Alabama? Ask Alabama how hard is it? How hard it is to win in Nashville. That probably derailed their season. Now that Alabama has 3 losses, if they didn't lose at Vanderbilt, they probably could have afforded a loss last night. Same as Ole Miss. If Ole Miss didn't lose to Kentucky earlier in the year, then they could have afforded a loss yesterday. Well, you have to give credit to the teams like Texas that have constantly went in and taken care of business. And how many teams can say they've won 10 straight true road games? Not neutral sites, true road games. We're 22-3 in the last 25 games. We're not just some fluke this year that all of a sudden just got good. We've been trending up. I can say the last 3 years. Sark's second year, he went 8-4. 8-4. Sark went from 5-7 to 8-4 to what was it? 12-2 last year, and now he's 10-1 this year. So we constantly been trending upwards, and you can see it in the Texas. The way that Texas plays. Are we a perfect team? No. But who is out there? I think, there's not some dominant team out there. I don't even think Oregon, Nick, number one, is that dominant, right? Do you agree with me on that?
I completely agree. Because Oregon, when we were watching the games a few weeks ago, they looked sloppy against Wisconsin. So I think there's levels to it, right? Like, I do think we need to be tested more, and I think we're going to be tested big time against A&M next week. I feel comfortable and I feel confident, but that's a big game, right?
Yeah.
But our strength schedule, I think, when you compare it to the SEC, is different than like Indiana in the Big Ten, right? Like they didn't play anybody, and then they played Michigan, right? And preseason that looks good, but as we know, it's not the same Michigan team.
And they only won by 5 points at Michigan. They needed some late game heroics.
We crushed them, right?
Yeah, so sorry. Go ahead.
They, and I like Indiana. Like, it's a cool story, but they got, to compare us to Indiana is just, I mean, that's insane. So they got crushed by Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State's really good, but that's the thing with this season. It's going to come down to matchups and who is playing hot. That's why I like Sark. And I was late to this train. You were trying to push me there. I wanted to wait, but we have the best defense in the country. I wanted to really wait and see, but I mean, I don't think you can say we don't. I mean, they've been explosive. There's no debating, right? I mean, so the points that they're giving up, there was a huge stretch of the season where we didn't even trail. I mean, remember that?
Yeah.
So I think they've been the calling card if you want to start getting into the defensive and how they performed yesterday. But I think it's gonna come down to matchups, and I think I would love to see Georgia again and just really see what that's like again and give them a good fight. But yeah, I mean, I think anybody can beat anybody. Penn State almost lost to Minnesota last night. So.
And why are they ranked so high? Again, they lost to Ohio State. Yes, they had a good win against USC, but look at USC. USC's like 6-5, and Penn State needed help. I'm sorry, they couldn't even beat Ohio State. So at home, a game that they were up in.
Georgia would crush Penn State.
Exactly. Well, thank you for the segue, Nick. So let's talk about the defense now. So what a game yesterday by the defense. 2 interceptions, one by Makuba, one by Jelani McDonald, 6 sacks, 2 by Anthony Hill, 1.5 sacks by Trey Moore, 11 tackles for loss. They really only gave up 7 points. The only reason that Kentucky got to 14 was it was an interception taken back for a touchdown. But the defense really only gave up truly 7 points. So a really good Kentucky offense, just as Georgia, just as Tennessee. So how would you grade the defense yesterday?
A+. I mean, I think, and I'm like getting excited just thinking about it. I think if we can make a run to an SEC championship game, which, we'll get into it in a second, or a national championship, it's going to come down to defense. And the reason why they're an A+ for me is because they have just been ferocious. They've been fierce. They went to Ann Arbor and bullied Ann Arbor. I mean, the one time we got beat is when Georgia took the fight to us, and that was a mistake. But, I mean, the interceptions, getting to the quarterback, just even when they completed a pass, just making it difficult. And I will give Kentucky credit. Their starter, Vandegrift, got knocked out of the game, and that other kid was tearing us up for a little bit. I mean, his first pass was like it was like a 2nd and 23 or something like that, and he was dicing us up a little bit. I think we weren't as prepared for him, but man, I like our secondary. I'm going to miss Taft when he leaves after this season, but we've been aggressive, we've been awesome, and we did it again against Kentucky. So if we're going to do anything more this year, it's going to be because of that defense.
Definitely. Yeah, our team identity, I said this last week, is we're a defensive team. And which is a little surprising because we have an offensive guru as a head coach and Steve Sarkisian. But you could tell PK has been balling out this year. We have an SEC leading high 17 interceptions as a team. We had 2 more this week. It's crazy. And what a game our defensive line has been playing. Alfred Collins is making himself some money. He's going to be a 2nd-round pick now, 2nd, 3rd-round pick, which is crazy. Vernon Broden, Jermaine Lole. Anthony Hill was all over the field yesterday. He had like 6 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1 sack. He had a huge sack on Kentucky that took them further out of field goal range, and they missed the field goal. I think, and so Anthony Hill was all over the field yesterday. Our defensive backs were playing really tight coverage. They're a bunch of ball hawks. Every time that even Kentucky completed a pass, we didn't have any missed tackles. We would fly to the ball, get them on the ground. We did get gashed a little bit in the run game in the first half, but then they took away the run in the second half and made Kentucky completely one-dimensional. This defense has been balling out. They're number 2 in scoring defense, but I believe that they're the number 1 statistical defense in the country. And they're the reason why we've been so successful, because our offense has kind of been up and down some of these games, but our defense has been the consistent factor this year. And they're a championship level defense. They're on the Alabama, Georgia level from when they won championships.
Yes.
And if we ever if we get play complementary football where our offense can get to where we know it can get to, we're going to be a tough team to beat in the playoffs. And you don't want to see Texas. So yes, the defense was amazing. We're very senior laden defense too. With the back end with Makuba, Taft, and Jahdae Barron, who's also going to be like a 1st, 2nd-round pick. The communication has been amazing between them 3 players because they're all from the Austin area and they all grew up going to the same trainer. So they have effective communication. And the defense overall is in sync, and they all play hard and fly to the ball. So they've been very impressive so far all year.
It's going to be, I think what we've been focusing a lot on over this season is how are we going to prepare for other teams? Mm-hmm. Like, how are we going to match up against Alabama, A&M, Oregon, if we get a chance to get to Oregon or Ohio State. But I think honestly, and there's a lot of things that we need to fix, but I think what you said about marrying our 2 sides of the ball with our offensive defense, even last night or yesterday evening was a great sign in that direction. I think teams need to start worrying about how they're going to play us and what that defense, I'm seriously, because I'm just thinking about a matchup against Ohio State. I'm not saying put the house on it, but I'm just saying our defense is really good. And we said this at the beginning of the year. We know Will Howard, he played in the Big 12, so he doesn't really scare me that much. So my point is, I think instead of thinking about how we need to prepare for these other teams need to think about how they can face us, because I think we're going to be a scary team come playoff time.
Definitely. And and these offenses like Oregon, Ohio State they've not played the level of defense that Texas has had. So they're going to definitely be shocked. I feel like our defense can match up with anybody in the country. So I'm very confident about that. Again, I wanted to give a shout out to all the seniors on the defense. We're going to have a lot of great players drafted, like Vernon Broden is going to get drafted. Alfred Collins. I'm just talking about draft eligible players. Jahdae Barron, Andrew Makuba, eventually Anthony Hill, Malik Muhammad. So we have players that are going to be drafted in high rounds, and we're a veteran defense that's played a lot together. And I just love Pete Kwiatkowski's scheme. The way that he mixes up coverages, confuses the defense. He brought the blitz on Kentucky, and before Vandergriff even went out, he didn't even look up at his wide receivers. He continued to look down because he was seeing our defense all over him, and they gave him no chance to basically complete a pass or do anything. So our defense has been awesome this year, and they've not slowed down, and they don't look like they have no business slowing down. So they're the one constant on this team that we can hang our hat on, that our defense is going to continue to play well. And that's very encouraging because defense travels, especially in the playoffs. So now that we talked about the Kentucky game, now let's look ahead because we only have one more week, believe it or not, in the season, and it's a big game against Texas A&M. So we're going to be playing at at Kyle Field in College Station next weekend. It's a big game. Texas A&M is still playing for something because they still have a chance to make the SEC title game despite them losing yesterday. So what are you looking for in this game as we match up with the Aggies?
I think what you were saying before is going to be a huge thing, is the seniors. It's going to be the defense, something that has been carrying us all year. And our offense has been great too. It's just been more up and down, but the defense has just been fantastic all year long. So I think it's going to start with taking the fight to them. We already know that they were looking ahead, which you can't do with Auburn, because Auburn is that kind of team, especially if you play at their barn, where they can be scary. Mm-hmm. And they beat them. So they, like you said, they're not out of it. They still have a ton to play for. It's not like they're out of the chances. If they beat us, they go play Georgia. If we beat them, we go play Georgia. Georgia's already punched their ticket. So there's a lot on the line. We haven't played this game since 2011. But I think the crowd is going to be insane. I think either one of two things. Either if we get the ball first, we march down, touchdown, quiet them down. Or if they get the ball first, 3 and out. Take the crowd out of it. But I think when we win this game, it's going to be because of this defense, and it's going to be Quinn making those smart decisions and being that guy. This is what we have Quinn for. It's last year against Tuscaloosa. It's earlier this year against Ann Arbor. He didn't look great against Georgia. We know that. But hopefully we get a chance to redeem. And boy, would I like a chance to go play Georgia again in Atlanta. Wouldn't that be amazing? So we got to take care of the Aggies. I'm very confident. I feel very good about it. It's going to be a very close, very tight game. But we win this game because of our defense.
Definitely, for sure. And our defense is going to be the key to the game. But also, I'm looking at my key to the game is how Quinn Ewers is going to play. This is a legacy game for Quinn Ewers. Even though he's had an incredible career at Texas. I just want to give you some stats real quick. 22 straight games with at least one touchdown pass, most in any Texas history. He's top 3 in touchdown passes overall for Texas, behind only Colt McCoy and Sam Ehlinger. And I think Texas fans are starting to appreciate Quinn Ewers even more. But this will be a game Quinn Ewers will be remembered by, and I have faith in Quinn because he's stepped up in all the big games that he's needed to, and all these other games have been build-up games for Quinn Ewers to come into this crescendo, which is going to be the Texas A&M Aggies at College Field. It hasn't been played in 15 years. The Aggies fans are going to be crazy already, and Aggies have a great defensive line, so our offensive line needs to be able to communicate in a loud environment. Needs to set up their protections, make sure and also create lanes for the running backs too, because we need to have an effective running game. And I would like to see Weisner become even more of the featured back. I don't know how you feel about this, but I wouldn't give Blue too many carries against the Aggies.
No.
I would use him more like in the short passing game because you see he could juke people
and
break people's ankles. So I wouldn't give him very many carries, but Quinn Ewers, I would like him to see him navigate the pocket, step up. If he needs to take a hit, take a hit. He needs to be accurate on the intermediate and short passes because that's his money. Those are his money throws. But also connect on a few deep balls. We were close yesterday a couple times. Isaiah Bond got interfered with. There could have been a couple PI calls that they called. But we're getting closer on the deep balls. So I would love to see us hit a couple deep balls against the Aggies, and so that's going to be the keys to the game for me.
I completely agree. A&M is not a slouch. They're not a joke. Mm-hmm. They're not, they're not just gonna give it to you. It's gonna be tough. But there's something about this team. There's something about what you said about 10 straight road wins, not neutral site, not any of that crap. Like this is Texas OU. This is Texas Aggies. This is Texas Nebraska. Or Colorado, like this is just hate. This is just, and he only gets one of these, right? He doesn't get another one. He's not coming back next year. and he shouldn't. It doesn't make sense for him. He doesn't get one after this. This is it. He's got an OU. He's got a winning record against Oklahoma, right? Winning record against Oklahoma? Okay.
Yeah, 2-1. Yeah.
2-1, right. Okay. So this is a legacy game, like you said. I mean, I think he's going to ball out. He tends to he's just like one of those guys. Like he always plays well. I mean, generally speaking, he's a great player. But I think these big games, he plays well. I mean, think about the Big 12 championship game last year. And by the way, I got a hoodie that says Big 12 champs, and I got people making fun of me for that last year because it's just the Big 12. But here we go.
Come on.
Okay, here we go. Because we're about to beat A&M. Then we're going to get another crack at Georgia. And then I'm going to get another hoodie that says SEC champs. So
I love it.
let's keep it a buck. So I think it's going to be a crazy game. You cannot give Jaden Blue the ball that many times, maybe in screens, but he's just too careless with the football. And Wisner, as small as he is great in between the tackles. He's fast. He's awesome. I think our offensive line is going to play mean. We have a lot to play for. And I read this the other day that I thought was interesting. With all this conference alignment, there's potential for a new champion in like every major conference. So ACC, for like a new team in that conference, right? So like SMU, they're new to the ACC. They could win the ACC, right? They're going to be in the ACC championship game. Texas, we could win the SEC. This is our first year in the SEC. Oregon, they could win the Big Ten. This is their first year in the Big Ten. So pretty amazing stuff. Just goes to show the parity of college football and everything like that. But I feel pretty confident, not just because they lost to Auburn. I mean, we actually predicted that Auburn was going to keep it close and beat them. But, I mean, it's just I think when you look at what's important in a college football game, what you can travel with, it's going to be offensive line, defensive line, veteran quarterback, defense. And we've got that, and I feel good.
I really do. And they've been waiting for this game all year, as well as A&M. But I just feel like with our personnel, we have a better offense than A&M does. Because A&M is, they've been starting this and better. Yeah, exactly. They've been starting this Marcel Reed dude the last half of the season. He had a big game against LSU, but he's not the passer that he is. He's just a great runner, and we can scheme up for that. Have Anthony Hill spy him, and make them one-dimensional, and make him beat us through the air, because I don't think he wants to throw against our secondary, because Makuba's a ball hawk, Tapp is a ball hawk, and Barron's a ball hawk. So good luck with that. So and then our running game, our run defense has been really good, because our defense, because A&M's offensive line has been up and down this season. So we could really make A&M one-dimensional on offense. And then eventually their defense is going to get tired, because their defense is amazing. Their defense is the heart of their team. But as long as we block up front, don't let Quinn Ewers get sacked. But also, there's going to be times, Quinn, where it's going to be a bad pocket, like where there's going to be defenders in your face. Can Quinn Ewers navigate that pocket? Can he have good footwork to make them miss and still make those off-platform throws that he knows he can make? Those are going to be huge. And so we have a better quarterback. I believe we have a better defense, and we have a better offense. Just the thing is that A&M is at home, but I'm feeling good about this game, and I think we're going to take care of business, because Sark always comes up big in big games, and he's going to be in his bag for sure. So what is your score prediction next week for the A&M game?
I'm going to go Do you have one off the top of your head right now? You go ahead, and then I'll lock
27-21 Texas Longhorns.
Okay.
Quinn, real quick. Quinn's going to throw for 3 touchdowns, 250 yards. Bond's going to catch 2 touchdowns. Helm's going to catch the other one.
I'm going to go 27-17. I think we'll win by 10.
Okay. Double digit. That would be huge. And this could be a huge game for us, because A&M is number 15 in the country. They'll drop a little bit, but they're still going to be in the top 25. So we're going to get a nice top 25 win. and that's going to get us to the SEC championship game. So let's just talk about a potential matchup again, real quick. For the SEC championship game, we would play, like Nick said earlier, we would play against the Georgia Bulldogs, but this time it's going to be in their backyard in Atlanta, Georgia, where me and Nick are at right now, and we know a lot of Georgia Bulldogs fans. So
yes.
And they couldn't stop chirping after the first game. So for a potential matchup against Georgia, do you feel better about Texas going into that game, or the same, or indifferent?
I definitely feel better. I mean, I'm still concerned, but I definitely feel better. I think the thing is, we can still lose to Georgia in the SEC championship game, and we can still win a national championship. I mean, I think
Yep.
that's the thing, is because similar to how Alabama has been a thorn in Georgia's side, Georgia was still able to win national championships. They just avoided Alabama. But that all being said, I think we can beat them, because I think, one, we did not play our best, and that's a credit to them. They kicked our butt, and I think we were too high and mighty and really just came in thinking we were just going to beat them and they were going to roll over. But that's just not how Kirby Smart and their team does things over there. So I think we could take the fight to them. I mean, obviously they're going to have the crowd on their side, but we travel well too, and there's going to be a lot of Texas fans at that game too. So I think we could take them, but it's going to come down to the offensive line and defensive line, and we need to get Carson Beck. Like, if Carson Beck plays like he did when he played us, we can't lose by 15. We have to capitalize on those possessions. I mean, he had 3 turnovers early, 2 in the first quarter, and we did nothing with that. So if we're going to beat them, which I am very confident that we can, just like I was the last time, we're still a very good football team, right? We just didn't play well. But if we were to fall to Georgia in the SEC championship game, we can still win a national championship, right? We're still going to get into the playoff. Hopefully we avoid them and, whatever. But it's just really, really hard to beat the same team twice in the same season. They got us the first time. Hopefully we get a chance to play them a second time and we beat them. But that's not our only goal here. Our goal ultimately is a national championship. So I would take a loss in the SEC championship game if it meant we were hoisting, the natty at the very end. But yeah, I feel good. I do feel good. It's just we're just gonna have to play clean football.
Definitely. And so one thing I'm a little concerned about coming to this matchup, it seems like Georgia's offense is getting into groove a little bit more. Carson Beck is getting more comfortable after that big game that he had against Tennessee. And then he had a big game yesterday as well. So that means that Quinn Ewers is going to have to match Carson Beck. Quinn Ewers can't have an up and down game like he can, but I think he's going to go into the film. Sarker's going to come up with more adjustments and how they can attack this Georgia defense. Offensive line is going to protect a lot better, and we're going to have a plan against this Georgia defense, because we already know that their size and their speed that they have, because I think that caught us off guard the first time we played them. But now we're like, okay, we know what they have. We know number 11, Jalen Walker. We know Michael Williams. We know their secondary. Okay, let's adjust, because we have athletes just like Georgia. But I think the Texas defense can force Carson Beck into turnover-happy Carson Beck, because with the pressure that they can get on him, he makes bad decisions, when he's pressured. So I think the defense can force Georgia's offense to take a step back. But it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a tough game to win, because Georgia, you don't want to play against a motivated Georgia team, and Georgia can smell, blood in the water, because they have a chance to get a first-round bye in the college football playoff. But again, no matter what happens in that game, we have a secured playoff berth as long as we beat the Texas A&M Aggies, which is all that matters.
Yep, that's all we got to do. I mean, just like everyone's saying, we control our own destiny. We're not going to worry about Georgia right now, because that's not even on the schedule yet. I mean, we have to take care of A&M. I've seen some scenarios, or some people say, we're still in, even if we lose to A&M. I don't want to get into all that. I just want to beat them and not have to worry about it, and then focus on Georgia. So let's just focus. It's A&M hate week. It's time to get into it. I mean, it's been a long time since we've played this game, and I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
Well, it's going to be awesome. The crowd's going to be electric, and it's going to be amazing what's going to happen, and it's going to be very, very exciting. So just to get back, just real quick, yeah, I think right now we control, our destiny in the SEC. There's going to be, I think the teams that are for sure in is Texas, Tennessee, and Georgia are going to be for sure in the playoffs. I don't know about Alabama. How do you feel about Alabama, Ole Miss? Do you think that they're out with 3 matches?
Every time I think that Alabama is out over the last few seasons, they always manage to squeak in. I think Ole Miss is out.
Yes.
But Indiana losing helps them. I mean,
right.
Man, and even like for Alabama, A&M losing to Auburn last night helps them. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it's possible. I guess, I think they're still in. Yeah, I mean, maybe right now they're on the outside, but I think like they're going to get their way in. I'm just trying to, off the top of my head, trying to think like who people are going to. I mean, people, whether you hate Alabama or not, people are going to want to see Alabama lose or win, depending on which side you're on, and they just get a lot of fans. So I think, I mean, them versus Penn State would be fun, or them versus.
Yeah,
I still think they ultimately get in. Ole Miss, it's going to be tougher to get them both in with 3 losses, but I like your locks: Georgia, Texas, Tennessee. I mean, A&M really messed up by losing last night, or they would probably be in too. But yeah, I think it's
they still have a chance to get in. A&M, if they beat Texas and they beat Georgia, which I don't see them beating both of them, they still have a chance to get in, but it's not looking likely. But Tennessee still has to take care of business at Vanderbilt. That's not going to be an easy game next week.
That's no joke.
And with Nico, me and Nick are fans of Nico, but we've seen how inconsistent he can be, very much so. We'll see what happens for sure. But okay, thank you so much, everybody, for watching this episode of Touchdown Texas. Be sure to follow us on our social media channels and subscribe on YouTube. Me and Nick are going to be back next week after the Longhorns play against the Aggies. A game we can't wait. It's A&M Hate Week. And let's take care of business, Longhorns. But until then, everybody have a great Thanksgiving week and hook 'em.